So let's take a look at the co-main event. It's crazy to call it a co-main event because this is a huge fight in its own right. Daniel Dubois, the IBF heavyweight champion of the world, versus Joseph Parker. Probably the most two in-form fighters in world boxing, because Daniel Dubois has gone on this incredible run, stopping Jarrell Miller, Hrgovic, and Anthony Joshua. And in all three of them fights, probably right to say that he was the underdog going into that fight. Probably not against Jarrell Miller, but against Hrgovic and Joshua, he was the underdog going into that. He stopped all three of them fighters. Joseph Parker, the underdog against Deontay Wilder, the underdog against Zhilei Zhang. Now we've got these two fighters that have had to deal with setbacks in their careers. They've had devastating losses only quite recently as well. They've had to come back the hard way in tough 50-50 fights where they've been written off. Now they come together in the IBF World Heavyweight title fight. It's unbelievable to see. Now, a lot of people are quite split on this, whether they're going for the informed Dubois or the informed Joseph Parker. So let's take a look at the punch stats and their recent form, see what might be successful for each fighter. So Parker's coming off two big wins against Deontay Wilder and Zhilei Zhang. These are two incredibly hard punchers for Parker to face, and he boxed superbly in these fights. Against Zhilei Zhang, he came across some hard moments in the fight, being knocked down twice, but still come back to win the fight on decision. Also with Deontay Wilder, won pretty convincingly that fight against one of the most feared, hardest punchers in the modern heavyweight era. So what he had to do in these fights when he's facing two huge punchers, he had to be cautious. He had to be incredibly efficient with his work. He couldn't be going on the front foot all the way through the fight, put himself into risky positions, especially early on in the fight. So you could see his pacing strategies being really effective in these fights, really good kind of fight management, and also he was incredibly efficient as well. Over the average of these two fights, he just threw 25 punches per round. But he had a high connection rate, with 32% of these punches landing and over 44% connection rate with his power punches. So he was hardly wasting anything when he was looking to trade with these two fearful punches. However, this might pose a problem when you're going to be facing Daniel Dubois, who is also a massive puncher, coming off 3 knockout wins with a 95% knockout ratio. So Dubois is just as hard a puncher as these two. So Parker might look to have a low output like he did with Zhang and Wilder. However, Dubois is not only a big puncher, but his work output is incredible as well. He averages 45 punches per round over the last 3 fights. And he has a huge success rate as well. He lands 38% of the punches that he throws. That's in total with his jabs and his power punches as well. You can see Daniel Dubois, not only is a hard puncher, not only that he has a high work output, but he's also very accurate as well. Now, we're looking at the punches per round. Parker has to step up in terms of winning the fight, because he can have a low output, but the opponents that he was facing had a low output as well. Yeah, he was efficient against these big power punchers, throwing 25 punches per round, and then Daniel Dubois throws 45 punches per round. His opponents, Joseph Parker, only threw 19 punches per round. It's not only that Parker's has to up his game to be able to match Daniel Dubois, but also he has to deal with somebody that's going to be throwing more punches at him. Parker, in these fights, paced himself very well. He knew that Wilder and Zhang would tire throughout the distance, so he started off pretty slow. So his punches in the first 4 rounds were only 19 punches per round. When you compare that with Daniel Dubois, his first 4 rounds are 45 punches per round. So it's over double the amount of what Parker is throwing. And then when you compare it to Parker's opponents in them first 4 rounds, Parker's opponents were only throwing 20 punches per round. So again, Dubois throws over double than this. If Parker's going to look to pace himself and go on to later rounds of the fight like he has done in the last 2 fights, he's going to find it pretty hard to keep Dubois off, because Dubois is going to come out, he's going to be aggressive, he's going to be using that jab, using them power punches. I can see that Dubois is going to win a lot of the early rounds. Now, he's got incredible work rate in his fight against Jarrell Miller. He threw more punches in the last 3 rounds than he did in the first 6. So you could see that he can work through them gears and go to the championship distance. So based off these punch stats, I'm edging towards Dubois here. Now, something that might be key for Joseph Parker is to work to the body to try and slow Dubois down. And this is what he did really effectively against Zhilei Zhang. 69% of the jabs that Joseph Parker threw against Zhilei Zhang were landed to the body. 30% of his power shots were landed to the body. So a huge ratio there, especially the jab to the body. That was really key for Parker to keep draining that gas tank. And you can see that Zhang's got some conditioning issues, and he's shown this in previous fights as well. But Parker was just working that body really effectively. Now, when you've got somebody that's coming forward constantly, like Dubois, it might be quite difficult to land to the body. And even Usyk, that we've highlighted what a good body puncher he is and how we targeted Fury's body, actually only landed 10% of his landed punches to the body. So this shows that even like a master boxer like Usyk struggled to work the body of Dubois, but obviously he had a lot of success to the head and eventually stopping Daniel Dubois. So key shot for Parker would be to work the body. And also what is noted as well is that you can see that Parker has put a bit of size on as well. So you could look to make this a physical in-close fight. He's been doing a lot of work on his strength and conditioning. You can see here working with George Lockhart, working on some shoulder strength. This is incredible strength here. You can see that he's got fantastic core strength and stability. And then also he's doing some high intensity conditioning, which is great to see heavyweight boxers doing some sprint interval training, seeing some pretty good numbers on the curve here as well. So it's good to see like a big guy like Joseph Parker lifting heavy and running fast. And this is what a lot of heavyweight fighters need to do. The main concern with Joseph Parker is that a lot of talk is about his size. Now, he has put on a lot of size. So you can see that his body composition is a lot better. When you compare it to 6-7 years ago when he faced Anthony Joshua and Dillian Whyte, he was sitting around about that 236 pound mark. Now he's like fully fledged at that 247 mark now against Wilder and Zhang. So putting on steady 11 pounds. The heaviest that he's ever been is 255 pounds now. He looks physically a lot bigger, a lot stronger. I'm hoping that he doesn't come in over that 255 pound mark, because if he puts on too much mass too soon and is needing a high work output, this could be potentially fatiguing when he gets into the ring. So let's see what he comes in at. That could tell us a lot about how this fight is going to play out. Daniel Dubois is maintaining his weight quite well. He's actually come in a little bit heavier in the last couple of fights. Whilst maintaining that high work output, it seems to be working well for him. Fantastic fight coming up. Daniel Dubois, Joseph Parker. I think that Joseph Parker, incredible fighter, but I'm edging towards a champion here due to the recent form and the punch statistics, but I'm very much looking forward to this fight.